Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. My question is this, right? If you listen to Teofimo Lopez, who's calling out Terence Crawford, he seems to have gotten under Terence Crawford's skin. But it's for them to insult each other and attack each other, and hopefully we can get a little brouhaha and we'll get some good highlights, something that can go viral so we can watch and talk about it. But my question is, when Teofimo starts to attack Terence Crawford's resume, my question is, does Terence Crawford's resume suck? Does Teofimo have a point about Terence Crawford and his career and the fights that he's had, and how he says Terence Crawford hasn't fought anybody unless they've been injured or sick or not a quality opponent? Now, my thing is, I'm not saying I agree with Teofimo, but let's just have a conversation, because he feels that he can beat Terence Crawford. And he even said Terence Crawford is a prideful guy, and he's not a guy who will just bite the bullet. He'll bite the gun if you keep poking at him, suggesting that Terence Crawford would come after Teofimo and take the challenge. But when we talk about Terence Crawford, 40 wins, 31 KOs. Look, 10 more wins, he's tied with Mayweather, right? 77% KO ratio. He's standing about 5'8". He has a 74-inch reach, which is freakish. But when we start looking at Terence Crawford, right, and the opponents he's fought, let's just start with his most recent opponent, Errol Spence Jr. The argument is, well, Errol Spence Jr. was damaged, car accidents. He wasn't 100%. He was weight drained. That Errol Spence really didn't help the issue when he came out. It was talking about his eye, his ribs, excuse after excuse. Nonetheless, does Crawford deserve credit for that win? A lot of people say no. Okay, so let's move beyond it. David Evanesian. Look, a lot of people to this day don't give Crawford any credit for that Evanesian win. But Evanesian can fight, man. But Crawford just made him look normal. But I will say, I think it was the first round, Evanesian touched Crawford up a couple times, and I was like, wow, he came to fight. But, you know, Crawford did what he had to do to him. Long story short, Errol Spence, a lot of people don't want to give Crawford credit for that win. Evanesian, like 90% of people don't give Crawford credit for that win. Then you go with Shawn Porter, right? Now, to me, Shawn Porter looked very good against Terence Crawford. Matter of fact, Shawn Porter was up on the scorecards. But Shawn Porter, the last time I seen Shawn Porter look like that was when he fought Keith Thurman. You know, he just looked, you know, ready to go, man. When he fought Danny Garcia, again, looked ready to go. But Shawn Porter had already been in a lot of wars, man, by the time Terence Crawford got his hands on him. He had fought Errol Spence as well. The bottom line is Shawn Porter, to me, is a win Crawford deserves, but it is true that Shawn Porter had been in several wars. His dad came out and said he didn't prepare the way he needed to. So, again, does Terence Crawford really deserve credit for that win? I'm not saying I think he does deserve credit or he doesn't. I'm just asking you. Then Kell Brook should be a signature win for him. But he fought Kell Brook. Kell Brook had already been, you know, banged up by Errol Spence, by Triple G. Was towards the end of retirement. Just wasn't really the same fighter he was before Triple G, before the Triple G fight. Triple G and Errol Spence fights. So again, when we look at Kell Brook, I can understand why people are saying it's hard to give Crawford credit for that win. All right? Then you go and you say Mean Machine. I think Crawford deserves all the credit in the world for that win. All right? Mean Machine is exactly what his name describes. He's mean and he's a machine. And he had Crawford drinking water in them early rounds. But Crawford kind of figured it out, made his adjustments, and he started touching him up. And it was all downhill for Kavaliauskas, and Crawford got the stoppage. So out of all the names I've listed thus far, Kavaliauskas, for me, is the first one that I say Crawford deserves credit. Without any buts. It's just straightforward. Kavaliauskas needed Terence Crawford deserves credit for the Kavaliauskas win, because I don't care what you say, Kavaliauskas, he can bang with any of them. He can win a fight against any of these elite guys on any given day. Then you come down to Amir Khan. I mean, it's kind of hard to give Crawford credit for that fight, but at the end of the day, Amir Khan, man, the guy was a champion, amazing fight, amazing hand speed, gave a lot of guys issues in their prime, but that to me was Amir Khan, his heart being too big, and to me it's just like a money grab. You saw Amir Khan didn't know what to do when he got hit by Terence Crawford, man, like off the jab. Crawford wasn't even hitting him with nothing serious, and Amir Khan was just all over the place. So that being said, Amir Khan to me was more of a money grab. Then Jose Benavidez Jr., look, when he fought him, the guy was undefeated. He did get shot. His leg was messed up. In the fight, Jose Benavidez Jr. was having a lot of success. He won a lot of those early rounds. But you could tell that the leg seemed to have been bothering him, but that's not Terence Crawford's fault. But you got to give what I'll say is you got to give Terence Crawford the credit, but I can understand where a person would say, well, shit, this guy was still recovering from being shot and was told he would never ever walk again, although he had over a year to heal up. Okay, so then you go to Jeff Horn. Look, Jeff Horn had fought Pacquiao. Jeff Horn was the WBO champ. But a lot of people felt Jeff Horn lost to Pacquiao. I personally felt like Jeff Horn, who was a big welterweight, I thought he roughed up Pacquiao and fought the fight he needed to get the win, especially in Australia, a little home cooking. But Pacquiao didn't just get in there and just wash him, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, because there was so much controversy surrounding the Jeff Horn win over Pacquiao, when they brought him over to fight Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford just basically, just beat him down, he wasn't really given that credit because they felt like, hey, Jeff Horn didn't deserve to have the WBO strap anyway, because many people said he was a bum. So Crawford doesn't really get credit for that win. Then you start coming down here talking about 140 pounds, Julius Ndongo. They said Ndongo, although Ndongo was a champion, he really wasn't that great of a fighter. Then Felix Diaz, John Molina, Victor Postal, that should have been a quality win. But I think once you start getting down here into 140, Hank Lundy and some of these other names, Delorme, Delorme can fight, man. I don't see why people don't give that man credit. But with some of these other names, Beltran, Gamboa, Ricky Burns, what I'll say is this. The people in the States may not have known who some of these fighters were. Not every opponent a boxer fights can be a superstar. You know what I'm saying? You got to fight guys who are ranked. If you have a title like what Terence Crawford picked up, you got to fight with your mandatories. And then at the end of the day, you can only make fights with fighters who want to fight you. And it's like Crawford and Keith Thurman. They could have fought a long time ago. But Keith Thurman, he said, he didn't have a problem fighting Crawford, but it's the money he wanted. $10 million, $12 million. At that point in time, that just wasn't the kind of money that was being put out by Top Rank for any of Crawford's opponents. So that being said, does Crawford's resume suck? I don't think so. But depending on who you're a fan of, if you don't like Terence Crawford, you probably will say it sucks. If you like Terence Crawford, you probably say it won't. But we just sat back and took a look at some things, and I do think it's fair to say, hey, with some of these opponents, they had some kind of ups and downs. But at the same time, those opponents that he fought, had they fought somebody else, they probably would have beat him. So you just can't blame Terence Crawford for being like Roy Jones when Roy Jones was in his prime and fighting in his weight division. There were guys in there that they just couldn't do anything with Roy Jones. Guys who you've seen in their fights before Roy Jones were out there destroying people. Okay, so it's not Roy Jones' fault that he's that talented. It's not Terence Crawford's fault that he's that talented. But if we're going to sit here and talk about Terence Crawford's resume, well, especially with Teofimo Lopez out here questioning his resume, then maybe we should take a look at Teofimo's resume. Now, when you come and look at Teofimo, who has 19 wins, 13 KOs, 1 loss, 68% KO ratio. He's 5'8", 68.5-inch reach. That's a problem right there. He's standing at 5'8", close to Terence Crawford's height, about the same height. He has a 68 reach. Crawford has a 74-inch reach. So what are we talking about? Crawford would eat this guy alive, man. But anyway, when you come and take a look at Teofimo Lopez and his resume, he's about to fight Jermaine Ortiz. That's a 50-50 fight. That is not an easy fight for Teofimo. So does he get credit for beating Jermaine Ortiz? A lot of people say, well, look, Jermaine Ortiz lost to Lomachenko, and a lot of people say Jermaine Ortiz has been hurt in fights before. So Teofimo may not get the credit he deserves, but Jermaine Ortiz is a solid guy. Josh Taylor. Look, does Teofimo Lopez's resume suck? Some people say Jermaine Taylor is not the same Jermaine Taylor that fought Regis Prograis. This Jermaine Taylor hung around 140 too long, and he, even by Josh Taylor's own admittance, he just took the fight basically, it was a money fight for him. He was trying to win, but he knew it would be an uphill battle because he was exhausted. Sandor Martin, a lot of people feel that Sandor Martin was robbed. He deserved to get the win over Teofimo. So Teofimo doesn't really get credit for that win. Pedro Campa, a lot of people felt Teofimo didn't look that great. And Pedro Campa, some people feel Pedro Campa should have won that fight. So here it is again with Pedro Campa. And this is the thing when people say Pedro Campa should have won the fight. Look, man, there was a TKO in the 7th round. But I do understand how some people feel like when they say Pedro Campa should have won the fight, they were saying that he showed that he just had, he did so well against Teofimo that they felt like he deserved to win, but he got stopped. So I think he had a brilliant victory, but, at the end of the day, he lost. But again, Teofimo, that win is kind of like, well, they feel like he dodged a bullet, okay? Then George Kambosos Jr., Teofimo got, he got beat, got dropped and got beat. And then down the stretch, he was able to drop Kambosos, but he wasn't able to finish the job. But one thing I will say about Teofimo here, George Kambosos Jr. And Teofimo, that fight was being rescheduled over and over. So Teofimo had to get down to 135, a weight that he's not comfortable at, and had to try to maintain that for months after months after months. And I think that did affect his performance with the health issues that he said he had. But George Kambosos proved that maybe he's not the best fighter, because after that he fought Devin Haney. Devin Haney, did what he did to him twice. Then in George Kambosos' fight after Devin Haney, can't remember the opponent's name, but George Kambosos lost that fight. They gave him the win. They robbed that guy. But Kambosos lost that fight. So a lot of people feel like George Kambosos isn't an elite fighter, and Teofimo Lopez got beat by what some people are saying is a scrub, which I don't think that's fair to say. So that, for some people, they just can't they can't just set that aside and move on beyond the Kambosos loss. Before that, he had Lomachenko. He looked great against Lomachenko, but Lomachenko was injured and coming off of a long layoff. So, and then Lomachenko started to pick it up down the stretch. And, some people still felt the fight was close, but Teofimo did enough to win. But the conversation was if Lomachenko wasn't out the ring so long, and if he had picked it up earlier, Lomachenko would have beat Teofimo. So they don't really want to give him the credit for that win. Then Richard Comey, I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about that. That was a pretty impressive win. Then Nakatani, he actually went to decision with him, but some people are saying like, hey, he looked vulnerable in that fight. Although it was a unanimous decision, he won almost all the rounds. There's still people out there saying that, hey, he doesn't have what it takes to really get to the top of the sport of boxing. Now, when you look at the names we just went over when it comes to Teofimo, we'll stop right there. Does his resume suck? Okay, how many of those names do you really know? And based on all the fights that he's had, how many of those guys, how many of those fights did he really deserve to win? And how many do you think he probably should take a loss in? So it just depends on, I think it just depends on the boxing fan and how they feel about the opponents, how they feel about the performance. And I think what their expectation is for the fighter against these opponents. You know what I'm saying? Then you got this guy right here, right? if we're going to say Terence Crawford's resume sucks, then some people are going to say Teofimo Lopez's resume sucks. But what about Errol Spence? Does his resume suck too? Because if you let some of these boxing fans tell it, everybody's resume sucks. And I think you can look at these resumes and you can make an argument for the resumes not being that great, or you can make an argument for the resumes being great. It just depends on, how you want to see it. But Errol Spence, 28 wins, 22 KOs. If it wasn't for Crawford, he'd probably still be undefeated. Got the one loss by KO, a 78% KO ratio. He stands a little bit taller, 5'9", almost 5'10". He has a 72-inch reach. His reach is shorter than Crawford's. And that caused a lot of problems for him. It's just the reach. He was getting hit with shots that he thought he was out of range with, but he wasn't. But when you start taking a look at his resume, he fought Crawford, okay? We know what happened there. He fought Ugas. A lot of people felt that Spence was lucky for that fight to be stopped because of Ugas' eye, because Ugas was, when he was letting his hands go, although he got beat down, but when he did let his hands go, every time he was hurting Spence. So Spence just dodged the bullet by his work rate and Ugas not letting his hands go enough. Then he happened to bust up his socket, his orbital, and the referee stopped the fight. But there are a lot of people in that fight who said, you know what, there's something about Spence looks to be a little bit off. Then he fought Danny Garcia. Look, those guys went to war, but Spence, to me, he did the business. He came in, did what he normally does, put his foot on the gas pedal, and he put the beat down on Danny Garcia. But Danny Garcia, again, they're like, hey, Danny Garcia had been in wars already with Porter, with Thurman. He was a 140-pound fighter, moved up to 147. So they didn't really want to give Errol Spence the credit he deserved for the Danny Garcia win. I think he deserved more credit because Errol Spence was coming off of that car accident. And for him to get in with Danny Garcia, who's a heavy puncher, and be able to do to him what he did, I think he deserves one for that. Then Sean Porter, again, he kind of in the same position like what Crawford's in. It's like, hey, well, Porter had already been through a few wars. And although he went to war with Errol Spence, they felt like if that would have been a fresh Sean Porter who hadn't been in the fights with Garcia and with Thurman, they felt that Porter may have got Errol Spence. Then he fought Mikey Garcia. No one gives him credit for that win because Mikey Garcia was a small guy with a big heart, and Errol Spence just, basically he just outboxed him. He didn't knock him out when he was trying. Garcia, he's not a dumb boxer, he's intelligent, so he knew how to move around and avoid the big shots and survive. But the bottom line is he just really didn't get the credit he deserves for that fight. And you can understand, Mikey Garcia is a small guy, it was just a pity. He fought Ocampo, knocked him out in the first round. I mean, a lot of people saying that's one of the fights where Ocampo shouldn't have been in the ring with him. Then you go down to Lamont Peterson. Lamont Peterson had been in all kind of wars and gotten there with Errol Spence. He had nothing left. And Lamont Peterson wasn't a boxer who floated like a butterfly, stung like a bee. He got in the ring and it was a mash-up, crash-up. Then before that was Kell Brook. So Errol Spence he doesn't really get a lot of credit for Kell Brook because Triple G had already, beat him down. Then there was Leonard Bundu who was making some noise, but again, skill-wise, talent-wise, he just wasn't on the level of Errol Spence, and Errol Spence knocked him out. Chris Algieri had been through wars, man. Ruslan Providnikov, Pacquiao, and other fights. So he just didn't have what it took to hang with Errol Spence with the work rate and the power. But once you get beyond that, Alejandro Barrera, Chris Van Herden, Phil LoGreco, those were fights where guys were just, overmatched. So when you look at Errol Spence's resume, it's easy to sit here and say that Errol Spence, that his resume sucks too, depending on how you want to look at it. And the bottom line is, for Terence Crawford, let's say he gets the Canelo fight next. And let's say he beats Canelo. You know what they're going to say about Terence Crawford? They're going to say that Canelo been fighting since he's been 15, too many sparring sessions, too many wars. Crawford was supposed to beat him. They're not going to give Terence Crawford the credit. So if you ask me, well, then what does Crawford have to do in order for people to stop saying his resume sucks? I'm going to tell you what he needs to do, which I think is unrealistic and unfair. I think the Boots fight, I think, is a fight he'll get credit for. A young lion who can scrap. I think he'll get some credit for that win. But then people are still saying Boots is inexperienced. If it's not going to be Boots, Crawford may need to go up and fight David Benavidez. Like that, or go up and fight Jai Apataya. Like, I mean, goddamn. Y'all want Crawford to get killed out here. You know what I'm saying? Let him go fight Jai Apataya. Or let him go and fight Usyk, Tyson Fury. Like, even then, people will probably say, he was stupid to go up there and fight. You know, those guys were too big for him. Nobody will praise him and say that he's brave or nothing like that. Crawford is in a lose-lose situation. There's just really nothing this man can do. But I honestly feel, for Terence Crawford, if he's going for the money, go after Canelo. But if you really want people to put a little respect on your name, I think he only has 3 options. Fight Boots Ennis, which that's a hit or miss. Fight David Benavidez, or go up and fight Jai Apataya. I mean, y'all want to get this man killed, but that may be what it takes for people to start finally giving Terence Crawford credit, man. Because really, when you look outside of Boots, outside of Benavidez, Jai Apataya, I mean, we already talked about Canelo. You know, Keith Thurman, you know, maybe Tim Tszyu, Jamel. No one will give him credit for fighting Jamel. Jamel seems to be kind of out there. What can Crawford do? I don't know. But that being said, him fighting Teofimo, I just don't think that's competitive at all. I think Crawford destroys him. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. And you let me know what you think. You think his resume sucks? But when we look at Teofimo's, we look at Errol Spence's, when we look at these guys' resumes, I mean, you can poke holes in it if you want, or you can sit there and praise the resumes. I mean, it just really, it's subjective, man. But anyway, I'm in the breeze.